Since the dawn of humanity, man has been in an endless race for progress. First fire, then electricity, then computers, all bringing us to modern times, where you can play Osu on a machine more powerful than the one used in the moon landing. Osu itself is no stranger to the march of progress. If you had told a player in 2007 that top players would be using tablets and Hall effect switches with 500Hz monitors, they probably would have thought you were crazy. And today, Mr.Dinklepuss is at the forefront of a new innovation in Osu, using your feet to tap. While on the surface this might sound like a gimmick, he has truly proven the technique, achieving scores surpassing 800 pp and making it all the way to 3-digit. This makes it obvious that using feet is not just a fun trick, but instead a viable strategy, and after looking into it, maybe even a superior playstyle in certain circumstances. On top of this, it could also make Osu more accessible to those with disabilities or even players suffering from RSI. So let's take a look into Mr.Dinklepuss's history, as well as the history of Osu with feet, to see how powerful the technique truly is. This is the story of feet in Osu. The origins of feet tapping go back further than you might expect, with the first instance of the playstyle I could find being in 2014 from the player Loco Vodo. In this video, he uses his feet for both tapping and aiming, and the description makes it clear that he is treating it as a kind of challenge, with it saying, "Sounds easy, but it was harder than when I passed the big black." Over the next few years, that was pretty much the only way people viewed the playstyle, as a novel challenge, but not a serious way to play the game. Much of this can be attributed to the fact that most of these players were trying to aim with their feet, something which no one has become particularly skilled at to this day. But a few more interesting attempts were made, like one player who used a DDR pad to tap in a similar way to how Mr.Dinklepuss does today. But even then, the player said it was like hell to play. Over time, it began to seem like everyone was retracing their steps, just dragging their feet with no one willing to push the playstyle. That is, until 2020, when there was a veritable explosion of foot players. The genesis of this was when the YouTuber Karyu made a Reddit post where he claimed to have set the new foot PP record at 2 pp. This quickly propelled the playstyle into the public imagination, with almost 4,000 upvotes, and others were soon to follow in his footsteps, with Covster setting a new record with a 4.28 pp play, followed shortly by Smorjoy with an 8.19 pp score, and finally Hugo Frost with a staggering 15 pp play. Hugo Frost might be the most pivotal of all here, since his video got over 400,000 views, further spreading the playstyle. All of these occurred on the same day, meaning that in just 24 hours, the entire community became aware of the idea of playing with your feet. But despite the thousands of eyes who'd witnessed what could be done, only one player would take on the challenge of making it into a truly viable playstyle. Mr.Dinklepuss didn't always play Osu with his feet, but as a 5-digit in August of 2021, he was looking at the scores Hugo Frost and others set on that fateful day in 2020, and he was inspired to buy foot pedals and begin playing with his feet. There's one glaring difference between what he does and what the players before were doing, in that he was aiming with his hand. That means that while all these players were his inspiration, he essentially made a new playstyle, which he coined the term Tosu to describe. One big advantage of this is that it allowed both feet to be used in tandem to tap, and that opened the door for alternating and more importantly playing streams. Although for the time he was mostly practicing aim maps. This makes sense as that's what he had played before the switch. About a month after starting his Tosu journey, he'd set a 91 pp score on an alt map, and he was clearly still finding his feet since he was previously able to set low 300 pp scores on keyboard. Within a month of that though, he set a 192 pp score, and a few months after, a 200 pp, then a 250 pp score within days of each other. As he approached the pp values he was able to achieve on keyboard, he also began expanding his Tosu skill set. That meant playing finger control, or I guess foot control maps, as well as alt and stream maps. One score in particular on the 185 BPM Shinku no Senko provides a good reference point for his streaming skill. Here we can see that while he's certainly able to keep up at 185 BPM, he struggles with control, causing his accuracy to sink to 87%. This was nearly 6 months after the switch, which makes it all the more impressive that over the next 6 months he would improve enough to get a 98% FC on Placebo Dying, which features constant 170 BPM streams. The score was 226 pp, almost reaching his best aim play with feet, and this trajectory would continue until he was able to set scores like a 322 pp score on Brainpower, which was his new top play. With 99% accuracy on the map's 170 BPM streams, this marked the tipping point where his scores on stream maps eclipsed his aim scores. Along with this, he was increasing in speed, with plays like a 98.5% score on First Storm, which features this 190 BPM stream, or his score on Twilight Skies, which is an 180 BPM stamina map. Pretty soon he was smashing his keyboard records with feat, with some of the most notable being a 500 PP choke on Karcher's Oral Cigarettes compilation and a 482 PP play on Sidetrack Day. By this point, his highest PP scores were almost all coming from stream maps, which represented a major change from the aim-dominant playstyle he used prior to becoming a Tosu player. It's interesting that the more comfortable he became with using the pedals, the more he achieved scores dependent on his tapping skill. And I think it's fascinating to look at why that might be. Anyone who plays drums probably spotted this already, but the foot pedals used for this playstyle are almost identical to a double kick pedal, which is often used in metal music to achieve incredibly fast drum grooves. What's most interesting about this is that's exactly what's being done on most of these stream maps. He's essentially made tapping in Osu closer to what you're usually imitating, which is the drums. And metal drummers show just how far this can be taken with enough training. For example, here's someone drumming 240 BPM for 10 minutes straight. In Osu terms, that's basically a 4,800 note death string. So yeah, the sky's the limit for the playstyle. And Mr. Dinklepuss? Well, he was about to show everyone that, getting the first 500 PP Tosu score on Honesty, and getting 5 more over the next couple months on maps like Lionhearted and Mario Slider. With these scores, he entered the top 5,000 for the first time, and at this point his stamina was getting truly impressive. This is best shown by his 98.5% Elements of Tail and Fire FC, which is 210 BPM, and features a myriad of long streams throughout its 6-minute runtime. With that level of stamina, he could play the majority of stream maps, and so flow aim became the crux of his improvement. And improve he would, setting his first 600 on the 190 BPM Master of Peace in February of 2024, and only 2 months later setting a 700 on Epitaph. He continued this improvement pace, having his rank from 3,000 to 1,500 in the next 6 months, with a ton of 600s and a few more 700s. Over these months, he got closer and closer to the elusive 800 PP Tosu play. He'd gotten faster with high axe scores on Everything Will Freeze 2 and Yomiuri. He'd gained stamina, holding 97% accuracy for the first half of We Love Llama, and his flow aim had improved, with scores like a Raise My Sword FC. And all of this finally culminated in the first 800 PP score in Tosu history, on The Whisper of the Ancient Rocks, with Mr. Dinklepuss achieving a 99% accuracy on the map.
Oh my god. Oh my god. No way. Oh my god.
Using foot pedals, he now reached a level of skill that very few in Osu history had, effectively proving their viability even at the highest level. That was in February of this year, and he has since set 2 more 800s and climbed to 3 digits. Along with this, he's pushed speed much further, with passes on 240 BPM maps like Joshin and Everything Will Freeze, as well as high axe scores on 220 BPM maps like Chronostasis. And all of this makes him one of, if not the most unique top player in Osu right now. Nowadays, Mr. Dinklepuss is not alone in his Tosu journey, with at least 45 other players attempting to adopt the playstyle. A big reason for that is that Mr. Dinklepuss has just released his own pedals made for Osu. These fix a lot of the reliability and actuation issues that impact pedals not made for the game. I talked to him during the making of this video, and he also provided some tips for those looking to get into the Tosu playstyle, which are on screen now. One of his goals for the future is to have enough players learn the playstyle that a tournament can be hosted just for Tosu players, so if you're someone with a drumming background or issues like RSI, it might be worth giving it a try. In a lot of ways, players have found the ideal way to play Osu, which is why it's all the more interesting when someone proves another way to be completely viable. As the most skilled Tosu player, Mr. Dinklepuss has laid the groundwork for others to try and excel at the playstyle. And with how far he's already pushed it, I'm curious to see just how much further it could be taken, and whether or not Osu players could match or surpass the insane stamina achieved by drummers using a similar setup. If so, that could make, as of now, unseen levels of consistency and stamina possible. Mr. Dinklepuss has already set his sights on a 1000 PP play as his next big goal, and with many other players trying the technique, the sky's the limit on the Tosu playstyle. And I think that's pretty cool.